Pretend you're my husband for 5 minutes, please.
I beg your pardon?
I'm sorry. I know how this sounds. But the man who destroyed my entire life is standing across this room, and I cannot let him see me carrying a tray. 5 minutes, please.
Sit down for a moment. Put the tray on the table.
That man.
Tell me what's happening, slowly.
2 years ago, I owned a catering company. Good 12 years weeks of work. He became my business partner, and then he took everything, the accounts, the company, my house. He forged my name and disappeared, and now he's standing in this room donating around the woman he ruined. That's all. I'm sorry to ask a stranger.
What's your name?
Grace. Grace Whitfield.
Whitfield. Your father, was his name Thomas Whitfield? A lawyer? Yale, class of 1979?
How do you... Yes, that was my father. He passed away 6 years ago. How do you know his name?
Your father asked me to be a godfather, pretend to be your husband, and that stranger turns out to be the man who fatal Pragata for you. You asked me to pretend to be your husband for 5 minutes. I'll do you one better. I'm going to walk you through this room as your godfather, and we are going to remind that man exactly who your family is.
Grace, is that you? I almost didn't recognize you.
Chase, you two know each other?
Grace used to do some catering for a few events I was involved with years ago. Small operation. And you are?
A friend of the family. A very old friend.
You know, Grace had a real talent for canopy, just not so much for running a business. Some people just don't have the head for it. Ran the whole thing into the ground. It's actually kind of sad. She was doing weddings in Greenwich, and now, well, here we are.
I said that's a curious way to describe a company that didn't fail.
Excuse me?
There's a difference. A legal one.
Let me describe it accurately. I had 40 employees, Chase, 3 country club contracts, a 12-year reputation in this town. You became out access to the account. You forged my name and walked away clean.
Young man, may I tell you something interesting?
Who are you?
In a moment. First, the Delaware LCO structure used in embracing the Barrett fortune is the friending a business owner and emptying the account. My name is Walter Brennan, federal judge, 26 years on the bench.
Chase, tell me this isn't true. Tell me right now.
Sweetheart, these are base accusations. This man they have no proof.
They have all of it. You're already charged. I texted the prosecutor your location an hour ago. You have about 20 minutes. Good, Quilda.
What Walter Brennan whispered into Grace Whitfield's ear that night, while the man who ruined her stood trapped in a circle of recording phones, was this. Your father saved my career in 1981, and I never got the chance to repay him. Let me repay him now. Come work for me. Grace did not understand. She was serving champagne. She had nothing. Walter Brennan had spent 26 years as a federal judge, and the last 6 running a private foundation that did one thing. It helped people who had been financially destroyed by fraud rebuild their lives. He had funded it himself. He had been looking for 2 years for someone to run it who understood, not from a textbook, but from the inside, exactly what it felt like to lose everything to a person you trusted. He had found her serving him a drink. Grace started at the foundation 3 weeks later, not as a charity case, as its director. Walter told her that the only qualification that mattered was that she knew what the bottom looked like, and she had the spine to climb out of it. And he had watched her do both in a single evening in a country club ballroom. The case against Chase Wexford moved quickly. The U.S. Attorney for the District of Connecticut consolidated Grace's documentation with the 3 other victims Walter's old firm represented. Then a 4th victim came forward. Then a 7th. By the time the indictment was unsealed, there were 11 counts spanning 4 years and 3 states. Wire fraud, identity theft, forgery, and money laundering through a chain of Delaware shell companies. Chase Wexford had built his entire life on the assumption that wealthy, embarrassed victims would stay silent rather than admit they'd been fooled. He was right about most of them. He was wrong about Grace, because Grace no longer had any pride left to protect, and a woman with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous witness a conman can face. He took a plea deal, 7 years in federal prison. Full restitution ordered, though most of the money had long since vanished into accounts no subpoena could reach. The young woman in the champagne gown, her name was Tiffany Ellsworth of the Darien Ellsworths, returned her engagement ring and, according to club gossip, was simply grateful she'd found out before the wedding instead of after. Grace ran Walter's foundation for 3 years. Then, with his blessing and a small loan he insisted was an investment, she did the thing everyone assumed she'd never have the courage to do again. She started a new catering company. She hired back 9 of her original 40 employees, the ones she could find, the ones who had never stopped believing she'd been robbed rather than incompetent. She named the company after her father. Within 2 years, it was catering the same Greenwich galas she had once been hired to serve. At the annual Greenwich Country Club Gala, 2 years after the night everything changed, Grace Whitfield stood at the back of the ballroom in an elegant navy gown, not a uniform, watching her own staff move through the room with silver trays. Walter Brennan, 80 now and slower but still sharp, found her by the fireplace. He handed her a glass of champagne. He raised his own. "To your father," he said, "who would be unbearably proud." Grace touched her glass to his. She did not cry. She had done all of that 2 years ago, in this exact room, in a black apron, asking a stranger to pretend to be her husband for 5 minutes. The stranger had turned out to be family, and 5 minutes had turned out to be the rest of her life.